Hi, I am NeeshaNova, and this is my first ever voiceover video. So while I'm building, I use a lot of cheats and tips and tricks that a lot of people don't know about, especially when it comes to placing roofs. So I figured I would do a voiceover and explain why I build the way that I build and why I decorate the way that I decorate, and how to use those little tools that we have in game already without having to download mods. So right here I am manipulating the roof to get the exact shapes that I want. I know a lot of times when people build roofs, they have a specific style in mind, and it's really hard to achieve that. So to adjust the roof shape, I held Shift and C down, and it brought up the 3 little dots rather than just the one. And that's how I was able to achieve that shape. And for this particular house, I did not follow a reference. Normally, whenever I am building houses, I have reference pictures that I can go back and look at. And with this house, I did want to explore more of the base game options. I've been building a lot of starter base game homes. So I wanted to build a house for a whole family that has already been pretty well established. That way I could get more familiar with everything that is in base game without having to use limited money or limited items in the house. Okay, so right here I'm having a little bit of trouble placing the roof. I had the grid off, so it kept snapping onto the floor. I turned the grid on to help me place the roof. Sometimes that happens. It just makes it easier to tell where you're exactly placing it. And then I believe I had the same issue on the back, so I had to turn the grid back on. When I was building this house, I was feeling a little bit cozy with the fall weather, so that's what I had in mind while I was building the outside. However, once I get inside, it got a little bit harder to capture that feel because base game is so limited with options, and because it's been so long since I've used anything from the base game, I struggled a little bit, but I tried. I do wish that they would add more options for wallpapers in the base game. I feel like a lot of them just look really old and the graphics don't match a lot of the new stuff that they have. Also, I don't think any of them work very well on the outside, and it does get very repetitive using the same stuff because I feel like there's not a lot of good swatches, and a lot of houses do end up looking very similar, at least the ones that I build, because of how limited the options are. And right here I am struggling with the outside lights. There's only like 4 options in base game. So I go back and forth between these lights a couple of times before I finally settle on one. None of them were really fitting the feel that I was going for. Landscaping is not exactly my most favorite thing to do in this game. A lot of my landscaping is the same depending on which style house that I am building. I do use these trees quite a bit. I think that they do a really good job of hiding the corners of the houses so they don't look so blunt, especially with base game, because the pillar options are very limited. And these flowers that I'm placing at the bottom of the hedges, I do use those all the time. I feel like they do a good job of hiding the really odd looking branches of those bushes. I originally did want a path here, but it didn't look that great. And I did not feel like going into debug or anything, or honestly placing a billion different rocks does get very boring and very tiring and very, very fast. I did want a chimney. I wasn't quite sure if I wanted that one though, or if I was going to build one, but I let this one just sit there for a second so that I could fill it out and see if I really did like it or not. I did end up leaving it. It didn't bother me. I do that quite a bit with a lot of objects. If I'm not quite sure about it, I'll just place it, and if it doesn't look right or I'm not happy with it, I will go back and change it or remove it. I think that these little outside patio chairs are so cute. I love them so much. I did try to incorporate the lounge chairs in this swatch, and I wanted to keep using the same swatch with the outside table that I placed, but they weren't flipping, so that was a little bit disappointing, but they are absolutely adorable. I did want a pretty big backyard, and I wanted a lot of things to do outside. I always play family-oriented Sims, so they're always hanging out and doing stuff together. I also included some skill building objects outside. That way your Sims can up their skills, and there's plenty of options. I was very disappointed with the amount of tool trims that base game has to offer. I forgot that there really aren't any in base game, so that was a little bit disappointing, but I made it work and the pool's functional, so that's all that matters. I also like, whenever I'm building houses, to create little sandboxes for my child Sims to play in, or to build sandcastles with their parents or siblings. So I wasn't able to add my cute little sandbox, but that's okay. They have a little monkey bar. That's all they need. I believe I moved those planter boxes around a couple of times. I couldn't decide if I wanted any at all or what. I do try to add the little garden seeds whenever I do have planter boxes, because it takes a little bit of trouble off of trying to buy them. There isn't too much landscaping going on in the back of the house. I had really a really big backyard, but I didn't leave much room for extra trees or anything, so I use a couple of the planter boxes and make my own little flowers. And I left one extra for your sim and a flower pack, so your sim can build their gardening skill if they want to. I do try to do landscaping as I'm going around the house and placing stuff, because sometimes I will go overboard with the landscaping, and there will be too much landscaping and not enough room for gameplay activities. So I try to wait. And now I'm doing the terrain paint, which is my least favorite. Sometimes I place too many things and I'd like it to look a certain way, or like something has been there for a long time. So I do try to get into all of those little tiny cracks and fill everything out. And my favorite part of building a new house is decorating it. Right now, I am trying to figure out the floor plan and how I want things to go. I did make this house a little bit bigger than I normally try to. I find it much easier to decorate smaller houses, especially filling in the walls, and um, I try not to leave any blank spaces, which does happen in this build. I also tend to forget to put lights in before I start building, so I'll be decorating and then get to a room that's very, very dark, and then I'll have to go back through and place a bunch of lights. This little corner ends up being one of my favorite spots in the entire house. I had a lot of fun decorating this area. I originally wanted the whole house to kind of fit the feel of this corner, but that didn't end up happening, and this room ends up being a little bit plain. I imagine that whoever lives here can fill it in a little bit more. I made the entry room a little bit too big. I tried to fill it in as much as I could, but with the limited options, I couldn't really achieve what I was going for here. I do put quite a few shelves around the house. Whenever I'm playing, I like to get all of the collectibles and things, and I like to have somewhere to put them, so I always put them on little shelves around my house. Sometimes I will decorate those shelves, but for the most part, I do like to leave them a little bit bare so that more items can fit on them. I don't end up keeping the little table with the decorations. I let it sit there for a little bit, but I didn't like how it looked up against the stairs, and I didn't have really anywhere to put it. I end up deleting all of my hard work right there. I'm also not a huge fan of most of the base game rugs, so I end up using like the same 2 or 3 over and over again in this build. This nursery ends up so cute. I do try to make my rooms gender neutral because I don't know who's going to end up living in these houses, but that rug had my attention, so the entire room is based off of that swatch. I am very, very happy with how this nursery turned out. Those are something that I struggle with a little bit. There are so many options now in The Sims for nurseries. It gets a little bit overwhelming, and I try not to make them all look the same. So that rug had me very, very inspired. Here are some more shelves. I love shelves. They take up some wall space and make a room feel more filled in. And that tablet is so useful if you have children. I don't know if infants can use that once they hit all of their milestones, but I do use it all the time whenever I have toddlers. It keeps them a little busy and it helps with skill building. It's something that I use very often. I tried to clutter up these shelves as much as possible because, well, infants can't really collect too much, so there's nothing else really to put on them. But I did try. I also am not a huge fan of a lot of the children's wallpaper in this game. I feel like they are all way too much. They're very patterned and they just don't look that great all the time. I do see some people use those wallpapers and they make it look very, very well, but I'm not one of those people. I always feel like it just looks odd. So I went with a simple wallpaper. Sometimes I do look around whenever I get done building something or decorating something, just so that I can see from like a grander perspective of anything else that I might want to add or what's missing that I can add, which I did, and then added a couple of little bows. I really wanted a fireplace in this room, but it just wasn't working, so I ended up taking it out and I put it in the parents' room. I love that they added a bunch of new swatches to these couches. I think that they're so colorful and they're so cute, and they would work in several different builds. Whenever I'm decorating living rooms, I love for them to feel super cozy and lived in. I added this little play area for your infant sim. That way they're not always locked in their bedroom. I do love to spend a lot of time with my children's sims. That way I can help them with all of their skills and reaching all of their milestones. So I added a couple of little areas for them to hang out in with you. I did put that little baby mat there as kind of like a placeholder for those little play mats. I thought that they added a play mat in with base game, but I guess they didn't. Oh my, okay, the curtain options. I think I ended up going with just some basic looking blinds because none of the curtains really fit in this room. Whenever I did only have base game, I always used the same curtains, the same ones that I used in the nursery. Those are my favorite, but I didn't want to place those all over the house, so I just went with blinds. I do fight with this ship a little bit here, and then I decide not to use it. It wasn't slotting, and I couldn't get it to raise up correctly. So I go with my normal go-to decoration options, which is some books and a cute little plant. I do leave a lot of blank wall space, mostly intentional. I like to place personal pictures in my houses of my Sims. I put up a lot of pictures. I take a lot of pictures anytime my Sims go out and do stuff, or if my Sim graduates from high school. Sometimes I'll do them per age, so that way I have something to look back on if I am doing some sort of legacy challenge. I end up playing with families for quite a long time, and I love looking back and seeing my Sims as babies. I don't know why, but I love decorating kitchens. I love cluttering up the counters, and I can't explain it, but kitchens are definitely my favorite room to decorate. I always feel like they end up looking so cozy and just cluttered perfectly. There's a lot of kitchen clutter in The Sims, so decorating is so much fun. I am so happy that base game has been getting so many new updates. So we have a lot of different swatch options now compared to the old 3 or 4 that we used to have. And even with the new money trash can, I'm so happy that we have color options now. I always end up putting a couple of the same objects in all of my kitchens. I always have hand soap and paper towels. I feel like those are a must in every kitchen, so they're always in the same spots by the sink. I always try to intentionally place windows behind my sinks. I just love the idea of being able to look outside while you do dishes and watching your kids play. Where I live, I don't have a kitchen window, and it's just one of those little details that I would love to have in my dream home. These are some of my favorite rugs. I do use those rugs quite often, especially in the kitchen, normally in the light green swatch. I think that they're so cute. I remember whenever I started buying packs, how excited I was that my build buy catalog was growing, and now just using base game, it was very underwhelming looking at it. I feel like the options were little to none, especially with decorating the kitchens. And because I've been doing a lot of base game builds, I really am trying not to use some of the same items that I have in my other builds. I'm actually very proud of how this bedroom came out. In mind, I did have a teen living here, but it also works for a child. I tried to use the same colors as the bed, that way it'll flow together really nicely. I put a guitar in here. I don't normally make my teen Sims musicians, but I put it in there just in case. I actually forgot that the little Baby Yoda statue was an option in this game. I used to use it all the time in my teen Sims rooms. So I was really excited to use it again. At this point, I felt like I had already exhausted most of the clutter options. I had used quite a bit in this house already. I did add the Sims and It Takes Two posters because I imagine that the Sim that lives in this bedroom, they play video games, and I personally love both of those games. I was actually very happy when I saw the It Takes Two poster in the Build By catalog. I don't normally add TVs in my Sims bedrooms, but I felt like it would take up space, so I didn't have to place more clutter. I didn't want to be too repetitive. And some more shelves in case you want to collect items. Okay, so the parents' bedroom was a little bigger than what I normally try to go for. I said it earlier, but I really do like building with smaller rooms because it just makes it so much easier to decorate. I added the fireplace that I had originally had in the living room in this room. I did end up making use of all of this space in this room. When I was placing the rug in front of the fireplace, I really wasn't sure if I wanted to add it there because every time I have a fireplace and a rug next to each other, they catch on fire, but it looked good, so I kept it. And I also tried to leave some space on the walls because with the new Love Struck pack, you can go on a date and get a picture afterwards, and I think those pictures are so cute. So I would love to put those up in that bedroom. I'm also really happy with how this room turned out. I wanted a fun space for your Sims to hang out and read and play games together. So that is what this room is. It's not exactly an office space or anything, just a cute little hangout area. Normally, when I build houses and I'm decorating, I try to keep the same theme throughout the house. It was quite difficult doing that using only base game, but I still think each room turned out nice. And I do like to save the bathrooms for last. They are my least favorite to decorate. So I just quickly went in and placed whatever you needed in the bathrooms. I did try to still decorate them a little bit. With this bathroom, I was channeling the early 2000s dolphin bathroom. So I did put a couple of beach pictures up. I have had a lot of fun doing this voiceover, and I absolutely love building and playing The Sims. I do plan on making many more of these videos, especially when the new pack comes out. I spend a lot of my free time playing The Sims. It is one of my most favorite games. I find it very relaxing. So if there's anything that you wish this video had, or you wish I would build more of, just let me know and I will absolutely try my best to build or add whatever you would like to my videos. But on that note, enjoy the rest of the video and I will see you later.